Hello, welcome to the webinar on using Autodesk Revit for retail. My name is Alyssa Jairus, and I am a BIM specialist at Baker Baines. Who is Baker Baines? For those of you who don't know us, we are a Autodesk reseller, and we provide a couple of other services listed on the screen, including CAD learning, ADOBA, and we also have a training center at our offices in case you're interested in training. We believe in designing a better world, in delivering better product, and in technological adoption to produce better results. That are some of our values. Okay, and our agenda for today. Okay, so the types of things that we're going to go through today is we're going to look at the current retail workflows in Revit. So what's currently out there, what are guys doing, and then we are going to look at some of the challenges of retail using Revit and possible solutions such as file management, utilizing area plan tools, and maybe even trying out some Dynamo to check how we could maybe make it a little bit easier for us. With that, we'll look at a demonstration, and at the end of that, we could see if we can get a discussion going, and if there's any kind of concerns or questions, you guys can forward that on to me. Okay, so the first one we can just quickly chat about is the current workflow in Revit, or even in retail just by itself. So we know that there's information passed to and from the various people involved in retail. That would be the client, obviously the one who initiates the project, the tenants, so the different tenants that are going to be renting or owning the shop space. So things like your Pick and Pays and your different store brands. And then information being passed to and from them and to the project team as well. So obviously the project team would be your consultants, your architects, your engineers, whoever is kind of involved in the drawing of the project, as well as building contractors and so on. So information is passed to and from all of these different various people to get the certain information on site correct. Again, it gets a bit tricky because obviously there's rentable space in these malls or any kind of retail space. So it does get tricky when it comes to services, interior layouts, and areas, especially when you're calculating things according to our South African standards. So some of the challenges in there would be how do you manage the different aspects of retail design in Revit? Things like the public spaces, the spaces that are like your toilets, your ablutions, your main space areas, your internal areas. What about even your tenant spaces, the shops itself? How do you go and get involved in the coordination of that, or even the design of those things? As well as the site context, we get involved just a little bit in the site part of the design. Depends if you're an engineer, then you could probably get involved a little bit more in that. Management of tenant layout information, also using Revit. So before Revit, or I'm not sure how you guys are doing it now, but I know you usually have documents of area calculations, what's the interior layout looking like, who's doing the interior, and what is the service coordination like in those little interior shop spaces? Is there a water point? Is there this or that? So how do we manage that information in Revit without having to resort to manual kind of input of information? So the possible solutions that we looked at after having several discussions with other clients that are involved in retail, and the problems and the challenges that they had faced, and what we kind of looked at to solve those problems. And obviously we will have a discussion on if anybody else has further information to add on to this, because this is a discussion webinar. It would be nice to hear other ideas from other designers or engineers, whoever's online at the moment. So possible solutions would be managing of Revit files. How can we better manage our Revit files? Instead of having, if we have a complex project, we maybe want to look at separating the Revit file into 3 components, depending on what is required. A couple of things that we had tried out with different clients was maybe separating the Revit files into having a separate project for the site, a separate project for the interior or the tenant layout, so you can manage the processes of that, and then a separate Revit project for the actual main building, where you'll be building the majority of the public space and just managing things like schedules and so on in that main file, and working drawings as well. So we thought about separating that into 3 files and linking it, as you can see, a little example there on the side, interior site, and link that back into a main model that people can work off. And if you have a big project team of architects, it'll be easier for people to just essentially make central files out of each of these components and then work on them individually. It makes it a little bit lighter on the file for complex projects, but it also it kind of separates the information to make it a bit easier to find where you would need to do what. Another thing would be the tenant layout area calculation. So we thought about using the area plan tool instead of using rooms. I'm sure you guys would know by now, room areas that get calculated very, very basic. And when it comes to the supposed standards in our SA standards, and when calculating those areas, they're very specific to where you calculate it, if it's the center of the wall, if it's the edge of the wall, or if it's the external face of the wall. So with the area plan, we could maybe get that a little bit of a custom calculation into our area. We even looked at what happens when you have service coordination that needs to go into these different tenant layouts. How do we manage the information of who's of what services are we still waiting for, and what has already been submitted and approved and okay and ready to go. So we thought about even embedding service coordination information into those areas, made by custom project parameters that we will set up, and I'll show you guys on Revit what has been set up and how we've done it, to create a schedule thereafter of what services are maybe outstanding and how you could track that information. We're also going to take a look at making use of Dynamo for information input automation, because there is a concern that's going to come up, and we have came up with a solution of how to maybe resolve that in the future. So let's maybe take a look at, I'm just going to change my screen, and we're going to take a look at some of these bits of information in the demo. So I'm just going to change my screen. All right. So I don't have a mall or any shop in front of me. I have a basic sample file project. It's just an example. It is in-house, but we can apply these kind of steps that we take in showing you in here to a bigger project, a more complex project as well. So you're welcome to do that as well. So let's take a look at maybe, so we just talked about separating our file into 3 main projects. This is just one file, so we won't obviously do that, because I'm assuming that you guys would know how to do that and would actually be able to link in your files. But what I'm going to show you here is, this is a basic floor plan of an example of a floor plan on working drawings. Okay, very, very basic. I've just highlighted the rooms, so you can see that I've placed in a couple of rooms with a room tag that has been placed in there. The problem that we had was the area that was being calculated was always very, very basic with these room tags and room information. So we weren't getting the appropriate area that we needed for our tenant layouts, and it becomes a really big issue on site, or with these different parties as well that are involved in these tenants or these rentals. So I've done both floors with these rooms, all right? Okay, I will come back to why I have done it this way. Obviously, we've drawn up things like the walls and so on. And what we've done now is created an area plan, okay? And if you guys are not familiar with area plans, under architecture, you're gonna have to generate an area plan. It doesn't get generated for you. You have to create it first before this pops up. So I'm gonna quickly just jump onto that. Okay, that's area plan level 1. Essentially what I can tell you is that these purple lines that you see along the side allows me to actually specify where I want my area to be calculated from. Okay, using these area lines in the area plan, and you can draw that using an area boundary. Okay, that allows me to get a bit of not even a straight edge. I can just, jag this line and calculate the area within the purple boundary that you see there. And I've just tagged that information out there. Okay, so I've tagged a bit of information. So obviously we can now use this plan and lay it out onto our sheet, okay, to get in the area information onto our plan. But obviously this is not the working drawing. This is the area plan, which is basically very much separate from the floor plan, okay? There was a concern that the room information in a floor plan is very, very much separate to an area plan information. So we came up with something that we could maybe look at doing, and I'm just going to quickly switch some of this information off. Okay, what I'm going to do is just going to hide these tags in here. Okay, we came up with a way of actually overlaying our area plan information onto our actual working drawings plan. Okay, and we can do that by going into the area plan, basically hiding everything in here. So I'm just going to select all of the information. I'm going to filter it. And I'm going to keep those available for me to see. And I'm basically going to hide the rest of the information. Okay, what I'm doing is hiding the whole building, but keeping the area lines and the area tags available for me to see. Okay, then I can go to my sheet, okay, my floor plan sheet. I would have essentially had all my dimensions done on my floor plans, so I can place that in here. This looks really tiny. Okay, let's change that to not look like anything. Let's make it a little bit bigger so that we can actually see what's going on. Oh, sorry. That's a bit too big. Okay, so I have my area plan. So obviously this would be dimensioned, have annotations, whatever you need to on here. And I could then overlay my area plan tags onto my main floor plan. Let me just change this to 1:50. And the reason why we're doing this, if anybody's worked with this, okay, if anybody's worked with this, they would know that the areas are very separate to the floor plan. And I will not be able to tag out the area information on the main floor plan on here. Okay, and that is a bit of a problem because we can't get the area information to show on the main floor plan. So what I'm doing now is placing the area plan onto my sheet and dragging it over until it snaps. You can see the little blue line. It snaps onto my main floor area, and then now we have the tags onto the main floor plan. Okay, this is a way to kind of almost, if I might say, fake the tags being on the main floor plan. We're just overlaying information from one area to another. Okay, if that makes sense. So this is how we would get our areas onto our main floor plan. What about our service information? How do we deal with that with each area that we might see? So because the information is in the area plan, okay, in the area tag and in the area plan, if I click the area itself, okay, I'm just tabbing, clicking the area, we can see things like you have a name, number, this is the area, almost like a room. Okay, same concept, and what you see down here is if I select this area, I have an instance property. Okay, instance property is a per selected area. So if I select this area, you can see that I've added in parameters for electrical engineer, mechanical, wet services, and fire engineer. And you can add your own project parameters through the Manage tab and adding in project parameters that you see there. So I've added in those, and I specified that I want those listed under the area category. That's why when I now click the area itself, I have information on the area or the tenant layout information. So if I click on that, I can then type in here and say that in this store or this room, I have not received information from the electrical engineer. I have received the design from the mechanical, and maybe the wet services information is delayed and we are waiting someone. So you can type in and manage this information that you see there on the side. So at any moment in time, if I click this area, someone has full knowledge of what's going on with regards to services. And obviously you can schedule this. So you can schedule these parameters that you see here. So every area will have its own information. Okay, so I then generated a schedule. Okay, so there's my tenant schedule. I'm just going to double click on that, and I've just added that in. So I've created a new schedule, and I've picked up in my schedule. So I'm just going to quickly go there. The fields that I used was the name of the area, the number, the level, and the different engineers that are involved, even the area if I need. So whatever parameters that you want to add in there from the area category, you could do so. But these are the ones that I have customly created. Okay, so we can then look at this and see that, okay, shop so-and-so, number so-and-so, level this, and we're awaiting this information, that information, and you can put in comments on the side as well. And you can obviously then pop this onto a sheet or a plan for your coordination meetings. Okay, and I can drag and drop that schedule onto a floor plan. And obviously, you can then have your meetings with this sheet of information in front of you. So that's a nice way to track that kind of information. So one other thing and one other problem with some of these that we've just mentioned in a bit. So take into account that now our room information, okay, is very much separate from our area information. Okay, you can see that this is a area tag and that's a room tag. And in the floor plan, I will just show you, we won't be able to tag out the area as per the area plan. It's just not how Revit works. It's just always a thing where it's very, very separate. So how do we deal with consultants like your engineers who need room information to go and do their designs? Because when it comes to things like HVAC spaces, they actually base the naming of their spaces from the room information that we use in Revit. How do we deal with this process? I'm just going to quickly just clear up the top here. Okay, we have created a Dynamo script, or I've created a Dynamo script that would transfer information from the area plan to the floor plan. And the reason why we've created one is if you think of a large complex project, to pull information from one manually to the next plan would be chaos. And somewhere along the line, somebody is going to make a mistake. So we've done a Dynamo script, and let me just quickly tab my view, or tile my view rather. Okay, let's just get that scrolled in there and in there. So this is mainly just for the room numbering and the room naming, because these tenants would basically change quite often, and the information would change, and there's a lot of chopping and changing. So you don't want to have to do it twice, and you don't want to duplicate work. Okay, so I'm just going to get my Dynamo open. Okay, so with Dynamo, you're going to find that under your Manage tab, and I can click on Dynamo to start the application. Right, so this is Dynamo. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with Dynamo. If you're not, Dynamo basically acts as it makes Revit a little bit more flexible. It does things like automation, but it does designs and things according to how you would run your script or how you would create your script. And it uses elements in Revit, and it reads the script through Revit to do certain processes. So if you've used Dynamo before, you know what you're doing, you can create a couple of good scripts. Unfortunately, not everybody knows how to use this, and therefore you'll be able to find a lot of scripts online. Okay, just search it. You might find a lot of things out there really that someone's already created. Even if you do know how to use Dynamo, maybe it's a good idea to just check before spending hours and hours trying to create the script that someone's already done for you. So I'm just going to quickly open, I think that's the one that I've created. And in here, if I might just quickly go through this, what I've done with my script is that I'm telling the Dynamo script to pick up the rooms and area information, okay? And I'm telling it to pick up things like the name of the room and area and the number of the room and the area, and basically transfer the information from the area for the room and the name into the room information. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm making it automated process, so I don't have to manually do this. So I'm going to kind of make that a little bit smaller so that we can see what's going on behind us. All right, if you can basically see some of that information on either end. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit run. Okay, so I have to click run in order for it to know where to run. And obviously it's going to pick up what project is open and run the scripts through there. So I'm going to click run, give it some time. Right, and then you can see information has been passed over from one place to another. So the area information for the kitchen and dining and the numbering has been transferred to the room information on this end. So now my room has the same information as my area plan. Therefore, when I send this project out to consultants, they'll be able to use the room information for their own purposes. And that way we can ensure that we're not spending time transferring this information from one end to another. All right, let's switch the screen quickly. Okay, so if you have any questions, concerns, or other challenges, you're welcome to forward that to me now. I'll quickly talk through the summary, but in the meantime, you guys can forward the questions and concerns through the webinar, and we can talk about that after I talk about the summary. So I'm just going to go through the summary. So what we've essentially done and spoke about is just the basic retail workflow in Revit, the current challenges in Revit, and some of the possible solutions. I'll just highlight them again. So the first one being file management, which is separating your Revit files from interior, your main model, and your site file, and linking those files in so that you have information stored on each of these. We then also use the area plan tool to calculate areas a little bit more precisely. The area boundary tool allows us to specify the line of which the area needs to be calculated from. Then we even looked into embedding service information into the area itself. So we've clicked onto the area and we've seen a whole bunch of information on the instance properties about which consultant is missing what, and you can input information on there to create a schedule thereafter. We also then highlighted that there was a problem when consultants used the architect's file, because now all of our information for tenants are sitting in the area plan, and that's very separate from the room information or the floor information. So we looked at using Dynamo to help automate the transfer of information from the area plan into the room or the floor plan. So we've done that as well. And if you guys are interested in that Dynamo script, please pop me an email and I'll send that to you. Unfortunately, I'm not able to drag and drop the file into the handouts area in the webinar. I don't think that the file format is supported through here, so you're welcome to send me an email and I could send you that information. So my email is on the screen, and I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to post any questions, any concerns, any discussions that you may have, or any solutions that you have found while doing retail design that we can maybe just share with the rest of the guys. Okay, so I have a comment from a user. He says that he finds the process a bit lengthy, thinks there's better ways to do this by using the room separator lines and reflect through out the project, all information then stay in the room. 100%, I absolutely agree with you. The only problems that we were facing was the manual, I think some of the columns or some rooms, internal rooms had the room bounding option on by default all the time when you placed it. But there are people using the room separation lines. Using that lines or even the area plan information as well. Either or, you're still going to have to do some manual work or manual, just to manage those processes. But agreed, you can use the room separation lines as well, and that should be totally fine. In that process, then you wouldn't have to use or transfer information from the area plan into the room plan as well. Thanks for your comment. That was a good point as well. Okay, so I'll still wait for any other comments that you guys may have. So just quickly, unfortunately, I don't have a reason for why Autodesk has actually separated the two pieces of information from the area plan and the room information. Hopefully we can get comments from them at some point. Unfortunately, we'll still have to have or deal with these kind of challenges in Revit, and hopefully there'll be better solutions in the time to come to see how we could make things a bit more efficient, because you know that there is always human error involved when managing all of this information, and that's the worst case scenario. We don't want to end up with fines or anything like that. So thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments. And if you require anything from my side, please do email me, or if you have other topics that you would like broadcasted on here, please do let us know so that we can have discussions as well. Thank you.